Hello everyone, and today I will be showing to you the Mythical Races plugin version 1.0.5. This is an updated one from the previous one where it has new features in it, such as biome-specific attributes and potion effects. And hopefully this will be a little more clear than the last one. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so if we were to do /races help, we're going to notice this help menu comes up. We have a couple of things here. We have /races choose, races list, races info, and so forth. We will first look at the list. So if we were to do /races list, two races pop up. We have elf and human. Okay, for simplicity purposes, I removed all the other races just so we can focus on these two. These two are probably the most basic ones, but they will get the job done. Okay, so first off, let's choose the human race for now because it's the most basic and it's default. Okay, so hey, we just started as a human and we just joined the server. Okay, so if we do /races GUI now, we're going to notice a couple things. We're going to have a title, we're going to have a player head, we're going to have a next page paper, and we're going to have each of the races themselves. And we have human and elf here. Okay, now you'll notice that elf here has some effects for daytime and nighttime. Otherwise for human here it's just none, and it's blank, it's boring, right? But right now we're human. So if we were to click elf, you'll notice that we got those effects. And it's all cool and all, right? And now we'll notice that it'll get kind of boring if we just had elf 24/7. So, but what if you had a stronger elf, something to go for, something to work for? So if we were to do /races tree, we'll notice an evolution tree. We have superior elf, and then we have grandmaster elf. Okay, if I were to click this, we'll say, hey, your level is not high enough to select this race. And because it's not high enough, if we were to do /races profile, and the player name, we're gonna get a little user profile where it says race, elf, level, or the level and the XP. Okay, that you get. Now XP isn't Minecraft XP, it's a built-in system for XP itself. We will be able to modify that and how to gain levels faster or take longer to gain levels, but we'll explain that after I explained everything else in the configuration. Okay, that should explain what this plugin is, but keep in mind that you can make as many races as you want. You can have like 200 different races, you can have 300 different races, and each one of them can have 50 sub-races. And it's such a crazy amount of things you can do. The only thing that you're limited with this plugin is your own imagination. And pun completely intended, because it's Minecraft. Alright. Now let's go into the configuration file itself. We are met with a couple of things. We are met with the title, the version, and we have attributes and potion effects. Okay? Now these are the attributes we can use inside the plugin itself, where the plugin says, hey, I know what these are, these can be affected, these can apply to a player. Same with this. These are the potion effects that you'll have to use, otherwise the plugin will be like, hey, I have no idea what this is, please use these potion effects for potion effects. Okay? Now, I'm going to explain everything here. So we have other. Now other is kind of like the settings for the plugin. Okay? Stuff that doesn't affect the races themselves that much. So we have data by UUID. Okay, now what this is if we were to go inside, oops, wrong thing, plugins, Mythical Races, and now it's here somewhere. If we were to go inside the Mythical Races folder, we will notice two files. We have config.yml and data.yml. Now if we were to open up data.yml, we're going to notice this nice long list of characters here. This is a player's unique ID that is specific to them unless you're on a crack server. Okay, So if you have like a premium server, you don't really have to touch the data by UUID, but if you have a crack server, it's better to keep the store data by UUID to false, because then they'll stay store by player names. For example, if I turned this thing here to false, okay, it will look something like this inside the file. And then like that instead of a UUID. Okay? And this is kind of it's better to keep the unique ID to true, especially if it's a premium server, because if the player changes their name, then the plugin will be like, hey, I've never met this player in my life. So it's good for premium servers to keep this to true, and for crack servers to keep it to false. Alright, now to explain each line here, race, that's the race of the player, level of the player, XP of the player, time is the cooldown time to choose another race. Okay? And what I mean by cooldown time to choose another race, it's that when a player chooses a race, they cannot instantaneously switch to another race. They'll have to wait a bit of time before choosing another race. Now, this wasn't bacon upon first doing it. I had to retry this recording a couple times. Anyways, default race is the race the player gets. If they've never joined the server before, this is the default race they're going to go to, and it's human. Okay? You can change this to elf, so they will automatically gain, my bad. They will automatically be the race elf upon joining if they never joined it before. And then we're gonna have human. Okay, this is the race. Night start is when the night starts in ticks, so it starts at 0 and then slowly goes up when the day ends or day starts. And between night start and night end, this is when nighttime effects and potion effects will apply to the player themselves. Now we're going to have something called timer checking potion effects. This is whenever a player loses their effects when the plugin loops through every single player on the server. So every X amount of ticks, the plugin will loop through every player and check for their potion effects if they do not have it, and apply everything accordingly. Okay, so if I were to drink this milk bucket that I conveniently have, I'll notice that some effects disappeared, but now suddenly I got them back after a few seconds. Because the plugin was like, hey, this player does not have the effects he's supposed to have for his own race. Or their own race, I should say. GUI name, if we were to do /races, and GUI, here we have choosing race, that's the title. GUI player display, that's where the head is for the player. Oops, player display number, that's where the head is for the player. GUI player display is just the name of the head, so it just says you, because it's you. Okay, the GUI slots, this is the amount of slots that are inside this GUI. So if we change this number to something, say lower, right, and we only wanted 3 columns here, I mean not columns, 3 rows, right, we're going to have to decrease this number by like a lot, and then only 3 rows will appear here, but then you'd have to change the next page number, the next page 53, to something that's within the 3 rows, if that makes sense. Okay, the forward click display, this is just the title of the piece of paper, or for the next page. So if we were to click next page, it's the next page. Next page, next page, next page, next page, next page, and so forth. Okay? Now, we're going to have something called GUI player lore. And this, once again, is just hovering over the player head where it says race, space elf, which is right there. Now, tree non-slots, if we were to do /races tree, we're going to have a bunch of glass here. And anything that's not taken up by a race will be filled with this material here. The title will be tree name, which is your race tree. Now, that's out of the way, we shall explain the bulk of the section. So, yeah, okay, I'll try to explain each one. Alright, so, we're going to look at the race elf for now. We're going to look at race elf and human. So, for elf here, we have our display name, which is just elf. And if we hover over, elf, we're going to notice at the very top of the box here, the name of it is elf. Okay, and that's what this is, elf. The book is just the material the race is displayed as inside the GUI. GUI page, that's the page number the book is in, the race is in. So if this is GUI page 1, this is GUI page 2. So if we were to change this to like GUI page 2, save the file, type /races reload, and then races GUI, next page. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Whatever. Just reload the server then. If something doesn't really work that well, just reload the server, then it works fine. And we'll notice that on the next page we have elf inside the second slot here. Or second page, my bad. Alright, now tree slot, this is where the race is inside the tree, evolution tree. So if we do /races tree, and here we have the elf, it's in slot 4, so it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's in slot 4. Okay, level requirement. This is only needed when the race is a subrace, and this is not a subrace. And that's just how it is. For example, these things here, the superior elf is a subrace, so if we wanted that to require level 40, we just put the number 40 here. Right, but otherwise it's kind of useless because it's not a subrace. Now slot 10, this is the slot the book the race is in, so slot 10, this is slot 10. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now this is the lore of the race. Okay, so if we were to hover over this, we have elves and all the little lore here. Okay, now keep in mind you can change this lore to whatever you want. It doesn't affect the actual race itself, just the lore. But it has to have one, so you can change it to like blah 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 blah, and then some sort of color code that says 1 and blah blah blah, something like that. And if we were to use /races reload, and this is GUI, we will notice that that's a bit weird. We'll change it back to this GUI page 1. It doesn't like to cooperate when it's the GUI page is changed, but everything else is pretty much fine. /races tree. Not just tree, just GUI. We'll notice that we have a bunch of random description here, which looks absolutely ridiculous, but that's just how it is. We can even delete this first line and the second line, and we'll notice that everything works just fine. Okay, but the elf, that's the display number, that's why it's still there. Okay, moving on, we're going to have something called day race potion effects, day race potion effects base, day race data potion. Okay, these three are all connected. Okay, so if I were to go over here and zoom in on this, okay, this is a different race, but you know what, actually one second, if we were to copy this entire race just for simplicity, you don't have to do what I'm doing right now. It's just a sit and watch kind of thing. Okay, this is our race here, okay? And to get a potion effect, we're gonna have 3 things for potion effects. We have the day passive potion effects, the day passive potion effects base, and day race data potion. Okay? Now this kind of works the same way for the night passive potion effects and stuff like that. Okay? Alright, if I were to change this color here. Okay, so the first list here is where the potion effects will be. Okay? So this will be the potion effects, or identifying the potion effect. Remember back in the config, if we were to scroll all the way back up, we have speed, slow, fast staking, stuff like that, right? This is where these things, they go over here. Okay, this is where you say to the plugin, I want speed. Okay, but we're going to need a couple of things else for speed. We're going to have to tell the plugin what the amplifier of the potion effect is. Okay, and where should I apply the effect, if that makes sense. Now, here we have speed. Okay, now if I were to go to a different color, I guess better. Now, speed is affected by the first line in this sentence here, and it's also affected by the first line in this sentence here. Okay, so telling the plugin we want speed, and we want speed of 2. Okay, and then this thing I'll explain a little bit, but we'll just focus on these two for now. Okay, now the reason why it's speed 2 instead of speed 1 is because the plugin itself, it takes the number and it increases it by 1. So if you want a speed of 1, you're going to have to replace this with a 0 if you want a speed of 1. So it's no longer speed of 2 now, it's now a, wherever that eraser is, whatever, it's now a speed of 1. Because I changed this to 0, it would now be speed of 1 inside the plugin. Okay, so now we have something called day erase data potion. Okay, this is very specific. Okay, I hope this makes sense here. The same thing with jump, actually. If I change the color again, jump be affected with the second line, and it would take the second line from here and here. Okay. Yeah. And if we were to add a third line, the third line would be affected by the third line, and the third line would be affected by the third line. Okay. Alright, that should be that. Now to explain the day erase data potion. And it looks a bit confusing here, I know, trust me, but it really is not. If you were to go over to this thing over here, okay, it really isn't as complicated as it looks, it just looks like it is. Okay. We're going to notice a couple things to it. Or actually, let's take an example. My bad. We're going to copy this little line here. With a little text. And increase the size of it. Now this is a example of it, okay? So we have a couple arguments, okay? The first argument, which is all, second argument being y, third argument being this, fourth argument being this, the fifth argument being this. Okay. Now the first argument is actually the biome it's supposed to be in. Now if the biome is all, then apply effect in all biomes, okay? Now to get a biome name, if we were to go inside the game and do such races, biome, I'm in the biome savanna, so if I just SAVANNA, savanna. Okay, and if I were to replace this as savanna, then yeah, this is savanna, then only the potion effect will be applied in the savanna biome. Okay? But if you wanted it to be in another biome, you do savanna, comma, and then another biome name, and for example, biome B. Okay? Now let's exit out of that. Okay. Okay, for simplicity purposes, we will have two biomes here. We'll call biome A and biome B. And this is our player, this little circle here, okay? Now we want this effect to be only applied in biome A. So we would do, we'll type biome A here. Okay, player y-axis is y, this is the y-axis, this always has to be here. Remember that, less than or greater than. Okay, so if y, the player's y-axis, is greater than negative 1000, right, then apply the effect. But if they aren't in that biome, and if they're not in their specific areas that they're supposed to be in, then apply the effect to something else. So for a potion effect, if you set it to -1 over in this fifth argument, it will say remove the effect. Okay, but if it's not -1, then it would make it something else. So if you put it as 0, then it would take that potion effect and it would apply it as 1 inside the game. Okay, so say for example that we wanted to apply speed 2 to the player itself. Okay, speed 2, and in biome A I wanted speed 2, but in biome B here I wanted speed 1 in it, so I would go here and do 0. at speed 1. And then, so for example, now when this player is walking around like a good little guy, he's like, hello, hello, hello. And he walks into biome B, and suddenly he has speed 1. Okay? But when he walks back into biome A, he now has speed 2. But if we were to delete 0 here, or apply it as -1, when this little guy walks over here, he no longer has the effect. Okay? That's just how it is. Okay. Now we're gonna have another thing here, and this will be called, oops, delete some of this just to be a bit more clean-ish, or not. And delete, 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 delete. Okay, anyways. Now we're going to have our day passive generic attributes, okay? This is our attributes inside the game. Now we're going to do a different color. I'll say, I don't know, this color of green. So day passive generic attributes, B1, this thing, and this. So this takes 4 lists instead of 3, okay? And that works quite in the same way between these, this, and this, okay? These 3, they'll work the exact same as the potion effects that I explained before. Okay, but this day-based passive attributes level, what it means is stack this modifier, stack this attribute X amount of times per level. Okay, so if we had a player level of 20, okay, and a difference of level 1. And the generic max health here is 16.0, but if we change 0.0 here down to 1, okay, let me just draw it out, down to 1, that means if the player is level 20, that means their health will be increased. So instead of 16, it will be like, I guess, I think either 18 or 20-ish. My math is not good right now. But you get the idea. But compared to level 1, it would just be a base value of 16. But as they increase levels, the attribute, this modifier level, will increase by 0.1 per level. Okay? Okay. Alright. Sorry if that makes no sense, but I hope it makes sense. Okay, I think that explains that inside here. Okay, now if we were to go back over here, now instead of a potion effect, we are now going to do something else instead of a potion effect. Now what if it's a attribute instead of a potion effect? So what if it's max health? Max, and then health. That's close enough to max health. All these beginning 4 arguments will be the same, but instead of -1 cancelling the effect, it will just set its effect to whatever this last argument here is. So if we set this 10.0, okay, it can never be -1 if it's an attribute, okay? Never -1, because it cannot cancel an attribute, because the player will always have an attribute. Okay, so it has to have some sort of number at the very end here. Yeah, okay. And this greater than symbol here can also be something like negative. It can also be like minus. So apply effect if the player's y-axis is less than the coordinate 1000, like less than the y-axis of 1000. Okay, now the spaces here is the spaces like here. So if we were to highlight this string, we'll notice that there's a space between each argument. Okay, I think that should explain that. Now time to actually show you it inside game and to actually add a race. But if you didn't want to have anything like for each race, you just put it as null. So for example, the human race here, we have day passive potion effects null, 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 and that means don't apply anything. Okay. But the generic movement speed, each race will have to have this or else the player will go incredibly fast. Okay, 0.1 is being the default, 0.0 all y is greater than that. Okay. Now to add a new race, we will copy the human race and we will call this new race test race. Test human race. We'll rename it to test race. We're gonna have book is subrace. It is not a subrace. Slot will be like 30 because why not? Tree slot will be 4, level requirement 0, GUI page 1. And blah blah. And it doesn't really need a lore because why would it need a lore? Okay, so we want to add a few things. We want to add jump and luck to this test race. So we're gonna have luck, and add a new line, and then jump to the player. Now at the base, we're going to get rid of these characters surrounding null, and we want luck 2 and jump 3. So to get a luck of 2, we're going to put 1, and jump 3, we're going to put 2. Okay. Now, day race data potion, we want this to apply in every single biome because it's the test race. And let's do that. So we're going to have all, which means all biome space y is greater than -1000. So if the player's y coordinate is greater than -1000, and then -1 at the very end. Else, if it's below -1000, then just remove the effect. They're probably dead if it's below -1000 anyways. And then all y is greater than -1000, -1. No matter what, there has to be a line for each amplifier or each effect. So we have luck, the 1, and then the third line here. But what if we want to add some health to the player? So we want increased health. So generic underscore max underscore health. And we're going to add a new line, and we're going to want them to have, let's say, 2 new hearts. So default being 20.0, we're going to do 24.0. Because 2, the meaning 2.0 is 1 heart inside the game. Now day race passive attributes level, we're going to have 0.0 because we're not going to increase the player's health for every level of the game. And for same for the day race data potion, no, my bad, day race data attribute, we're going to have a new line that says all y is greater than -1000 and then -1. Now, okay, but what if we want the night race to have a different effect during the night? So instead of having 22 hearts, they'll have like 2 hearts during the night instead of 24. I mean 22 hearts, my bad. Okay, so we're going to add a new line here called generic underscore max underscore health. A new line here, and we'll put 2.0. No, 4.0 for 2 hertz. And the level being 0.0, and a new data being all y is greater than -1000 and -1. Okay, and we're also going to have execute a couple of console commands. Test race too. So if we want to execute a console command, for example, give and then player dirt by 4. There we go. We also gave the player dirt upon switching to this test race, and we're just going to say hello. This is a console command. These curly brackets, and then player curly bracket will be the player name. And that should be good enough. So if we were to go back inside the game and do /races, reload, and then races list, we're going to notice a new thing called test race appears. And then we do slash races, and then GUI, and then there we have test race. If we were to click it, we're going to notice that we gained 4 dirt. Like if I were to do this and choose the race again, I gained 4 dirt and the server said hello. But then I also got the effects that I was supposed to get. No, we're at night, so I didn't get the effects. So if we do day, we're going to notice that I gained 2 extra hearts, and I have jump boost 3 and luck 2. But if I were to go back to night, I'm going to lose the effects, and then you see my hearts gain, I went back to 2. Okay? Now we're going to add a sub race onto this race. And to do so, we will copy the test race, just for now, and we'll call this test race 2 as the new race. Test race 2. This will be a new race, test race 2, blah blah blah. Display name doesn't really matter. Material, we'll keep it as book. Is sub race will be set to true. Sub race type. This is the sub race it's supposed to be for now. So if we go scroll up a bit, we want the sub race to be for test race. So I'm going to type in test race there. Tree slot, we'll make this 10. Level requirement 10. And slot doesn't really matter. Slot doesn't really apply anymore. The tree slot only applies because it's only inside the races tree. And we'll say the player gets jump 11. Even though we put 10, it's going to be 11 into the game for day. Now we'll go inside this game and do slash races reload, and then do races tree. We're going to notice we're going to have a test race now. We're going to have test race 2 inside of our regular race that we had before. If we want to click this, we'll say it will say your level is not high enough, right? But we're going to force it so the player is, so our level is high enough. And to do so, we're going to go inside the data.yml test race. We're going to change our level to like 100 and do slash races reload, and then races tree. We can now select the race, and then you'll notice that we have a very high jump boost during the day. And yeah, and then you also notice we got 4 more dirt, and the server said hello because of these. Because we had the execute commands upon switching. Okay, now I am now going to demonstrate the biomes and how to actually use this data, because it's probably a bit confusing as to now, but it's better just to show you in person, or on Minecraft I should say. Okay, so now we only want to apply the effect luck in the savanna biome. Okay, so right now, for the game mode creative, just races, choose test race. Okay, and jump this back to jump is 3, such races biome, savanna plateau, and savanna. Okay, so these are 2 different biomes from here, from savanna plateau, and then we have just regular savanna. Alright, now we just wanted to apply jump in the savanna. So jump is the second line, so we're going to look at the second line of day race data potion. So instead of all, we're going to do SAVANNA, savanna, and y is greater than -1000, and then -1. And then we'll do slash races reload, and we're going to notice that the jump boost is still there, but once we hop into this new biome, in a few seconds we just lost the jump boost 3. Okay, because it's no longer inside the biome we were supposed to be in. Now if we went back over here, we're going to notice that we got jump boost 3 again, because we walked into the savanna biome. But what if we wanted to do 2 biomes inside, so savanna and savanna plateau? Okay. And if I were to type savanna _plateau, I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's fine. We'll do comma, and then Control V, and now it's going to be applied in Savannah and Savannah Plateau. Well, why the player's y-axis is greater than -1000. Okay, and remember that -1 is disabling the effect, but if we were to do, for example, 100, if I walk anywhere outside of Savannah or Savannah Plateau, the effect 100 will be applied instead. So if I do /races reload, and /races biome, Savannah, Savannah, Savannah. You'll notice this jump is 3 still. Savannah. Come on. Still Savannah. Gotta find something that's not Savannah. Oh. Stone Shore. You'll notice that our jump boost no longer has a counter, because if we were to go down and jump, we jump so fast that it actually isn't allowing me to jump. That makes sense. I don't think it's allowing me to jump. Oh, that's crazy. Didn't know that. Okay, set it to 20 then. /races, reload, and then 20. And you'll see that, boom, we can jump really high now. But if we go back into the Savannah biome, we'll notice that very soon we'll have jump boost 3 only. And I died, obviously. And I'm no longer inside the Savannah biome. But anyways, you get the idea. We walk into the Savannah and then we get jump boost 3 again. But if we no longer go in it, then you know it's no longer applied. Okay. Now, generic max health. The same thing is for the attributes, the day erase data attribute here. And exactly how it is, but instead of -1 of disabling the effect, you have to add an effect to it because it's always added to the player itself. Alright, I think that explains everything, actually. Oh, actually, wait, a couple more things. Here we have leveling, okay? The max level, this is max player level globally, so max level will be 100 XP gain. This is XP per level, so it's the level they are times this to get to the next level. So 2 times 24. So if they're level 2, you go 2 times 24, which is 48, and then they need 48 XP to advance to the next level. And it would just keep increasing, and so forth. Okay. If you wanted the grind to be longer for levels, you just increase this XP per level to like 30, like 40, if you want it to be absolute pain. But if you want the leveling to be a lot faster, then you can set this to like 10 or something lower, and the distance to something lower, or the XP gain to something a bit higher. It's quite self-explanatory, honestly, for the leveling. Oh, a couple things now. If we do /races help, I'm still not stupid. Okay. /races and then set. And then race, so just say a human, and then player, corpse 2, and now a human. So this is a console command, or admin command, so never give this to someone else. Okay, now for the main thing, permissions, because for some reason everyone loves to ask me why their permissions aren't working, and I do not know why. If I go onto the snapping thing now, okay, so these are the permissions. The main permissions are, this isn't updated, this is actually the list on Spigot MC, but we're just gonna look at this for now. This is the main line right here, okay? To apply permissions to a player, you're gonna need plugins called Luck Perms and Vault. These two plugins are your permission handlers, okay? They are meant to handle permissions, to allow permissions, deny permissions, ranks, etc. Right, so to choose a race, to allow a player to choose a race, you're going to have to do something like this. The permission is going to look like mythical races.race, and then the race name, okay? So if we were to do /races list, we have elf, human, and test race. So we can do /lp group default add permission set mythical races dot race, and then dot, and then elf, the true. Now the default race can now use elf. Okay. Now, but they don't have the permissions for the subraces. So superior elf will have to be set to true. So if I were to use races, choose elf, races tree, we're going to notice that superior elf is another race space. So we're going to have to give the permission for superior elf as well. What else? And so forth for the other races. So race dot and then human, and then race dot, and for example, if there's a demon race, demon, this is capital sensitive. The race, the permission will always be this here. Test race has another permission. High human, that's another permission. Human, that's another permission. Grandmaster elf, that's another permission, and so on. Okay, I think that explains everything so far. I hope this wasn't too confusing. I tried my best, but if you have any questions, just join my Discord, and I'll try to help you out. And yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. If you stick around for this long, I don't know what to say, thank you, I guess. And yeah, I shall see you next time, and have a good one.